Hey guys, we got a lot of bullish news this week that is signaling that AI infrastructure stocks are set to skyrocket in the near future. Thanks for watching, guys. Basically, this week there was a ton of companies that had earnings that showed that AI spend is already creating an ROI, a return on investment for these companies, which means they're probably more incentivized to continue spending on AI, which means what? AI infrastructure will continue to be built out. So let's talk about that in this video, guys. As always, like and subscribe. There was a ton of companies that had earnings in the AI space. We had Palantir, AMD, we had SpaceX, obviously. We had SanDisk, we had Western Digital. There was almost too many to even list. And there was some that surprised people like Airbnb. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. With this whole talk about SaaS apocalypse, right? People talking about SaaS companies going in the toilet because AI companies themselves are just going to eat their lunch. Then you have companies like Airbnb whose stock is skyrocketing this week because they're using AI to actually increase profits and increase productivity. So we're going to talk about all of that in this video and how this bodes for stocks like Micron, AMD, NVIDIA, Hynix, all these AI stocks across the board, guys. As always, like and subscribe. The portfolio this week up to 1.24 million, all-time highs, guys. Let me know how you guys are doing in the market this week. If you guys want to see what's in my portfolio, join that private group. Link is in the description below. You'll see which stocks I'm buying and why. Micron for the week did pretty well, up 12%. You'll see we're going to talk about it in the video, and you've probably been following this. For the week, AI chip stocks kind of peaked on Tuesday or Wednesday, and then after AMD earnings kind of softened up a little bit. But most of them were up for the week. Micron up one of the most, about 12%. So great week for Micron, back up to almost 900. And I want to point out, this is something I've been saying for weeks or even months now. With Micron peaking at 1.2 a few months ago, that was the, they peaked at 1.2 for a few days, right? But really you could say 1,000 is a reasonable peak, right? It kind of held 1,000 for a little bit. We're almost back up to that $1,000 number. And I really think, we will continue to have volatility in the chip space, in the AI infrastructure space for the coming months. But overall, I mean, guys, look, even with this 12% increase for the week, I think Micron's still trading at a forward PE of like a 7, right? Which is completely insane. But we're seeing some strong, it's holding up, getting closer to 1,000, almost at 900 for the week. It's a pretty good week for Micron there. And you'll see the chip stocks did well across the board. NVIDIA itself was up 13%. Huge, $5 trillion company up 13% in the week. It's insane, guys. So we're seeing some crazy volatility. But obviously, NVIDIA, if you've been following, was up because SpaceX signaled they're going to be spending insane money on AI infrastructure in the coming years, right? And it's not just SpaceX. We have a lot of companies like Airbnb, surprise folks. Airbnb stock surged 15% after earnings, after they signaled that AI spend is already creating a return on investment. Let's quickly summarize here. So Airbnb stock surged 15% to a 4-year high after their CEO credited AI for supercharging the company's financial results and operational efficiency. They beat Q2 revenue expectations at $3.61 billion. Airbnb raised its full-year outlook because AI tools dramatically accelerated product output and cut overhead costs across the board. So faster output using AI tools at Airbnb has allowed them to develop products and cut product development time by roughly 60%. So they're cutting the amount of time it takes them to produce these products by more than half, right? Now, the company shipped 80% more features year over year, and they've been able to keep headcount flat. So essentially, net, not hiring any more employees, while vastly increasing software output. At the same time, reducing costs with automation. And this is where we're seeing AI really, there's coding, that's a big one. And then we're also seeing customer service call centers, right? So customer service support, roughly 45% of guests interacting with Airbnb's AI support agent service completely resolve their issues without any human intervention, right? So they're already replacing human employees, which they're paying insurance, they're paying hourly wages, they need days off, they need PTO, with AI. And they're getting an ROI on that. Why is that a bullish signal? If you're following the AI chip trade, you understand that this is signaling that with companies already making an ROI on AI spend, obviously, AI infrastructure, we're not done building out this infrastructure, right? This is bullish because that was really the last couple of months. The biggest bear case was that, we're seeing growth, we're seeing some adoption, but we're not seeing ROI, and companies are going to cut back on spend. Well, companies like Airbnb are showing the complete opposite. And as far as that SaaS apocalypse, guys, we've been talking about, you're going to have some SaaS companies go out of business because they will essentially just become a feature of AI. But then you have companies like Airbnb, right? Do you think you're ever going to hop into ChatGPT or hop into Anthropic and just, book an Airbnb, in OpenAI? It's possible, right? But even if you were to do that, on the back end, you'd probably have an app like Airbnb, right? It's extremely difficult. They've been running for many, many years. They have customer service, they have logistics. There's no way you're just going to do that within a simple ChatGPT, right? So you're going to have, in the SaaS space, you're going to have some winners, some losers, and obviously Airbnb is looking like a winner. But at the end of the day, that is a huge win for AI infrastructure stocks. Western Digital for the week, it did pop just a little bit. If you saw 520, 519 at the beginning of the week, peaked at about 551, and again, followed that same trend where after AMD earnings, Tuesday, Wednesday, really Wednesday and onward, it really dropped. And Western Digital was really hit the hardest in that regard. And it really just seems like investors from Western Digital are really taking profits on that stock. SK Hynix had the same issue. Sorry, one sec, guys. Okay, perfect. SK Hynix really followed that same trend, right? Started up at about $138 per share, peaked at about $155, and then back down to $137. So SK Hynix was actually down about 1% for the week. It's been a little choppier for SK Hynix. I really do think, and this is why, even though I am adding it to the portfolio, it's a very, very small, much smaller than Micron, and I plan on it being a much smaller part, at least in the short term. I really do think it's geopolitical here, right? That's just my opinion. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. But I think when you're talking about these chip stocks, these AI infrastructure stocks, I really do think that American companies will trade at a premium. Obviously, SK Hynix is part of the Korean drama with the South Korean stock market plummeting. It's been completely insane. Investors there were completely over leveraged. I think their stock market was essentially 50% two companies, SK Hynix and Samsung. So, when you have a company that's like 25 to 30% of the entire stock market, I mean, don't be surprised if it goes down, right? Just don't be surprised. So I do plan on building this position out in the portfolio, but right now I have a couple of shares. I'm gonna go slow with that one, right? But again, if you guys wanna see what I'm buying, let me know in the comments and join that private stock group. But overall, the point is here, it followed that same trend. After AMD earnings, it really dipped after hitting weekly highs. AMD earnings were strong, as we talked about, but it is what it is, right? People taking profits. Another company signaling that AI is already, giving them an ROI is Doximity. And a lot of this is also due, as far as the stock price, to a short squeeze. Short sellers, after the good news came out, they had to cover their shorts, and this caused the stock to pop literally like 100% in a day. It was completely insane. But Doximity, for those of you that don't know, they have been using AI within their platform, and the CEO came out and said that essentially for every dollar they spend on AI with some features, some of their more popular features, they're getting a $10 return on that spend. So they're showing extreme return on AI spend, extreme growth, and again, this is a bullish signal for the infrastructure on the back end, right? In my opinion, investing in the AI space, the infrastructure is the safest place because we've already seen there's a huge bottleneck, especially when it comes to memory chips. We have a backlog of multiple years of demand, and we continue to get good news with companies like Airbnb and Doximity showing massive growth and return on investment when it comes to AI spend. So what did Doximity say in regards to AI, and why is that bullish for chip stocks? So Doximity stock surged after CEO Jeff Tangney revealed during an earnings call that the company's AI search tools earn 10 times more in revenue than they cost to run. Okay, so they've developed AI tools. They're using the chips, they're using the software. The revenue that comes in from some of these tools is bringing in 10 times the dollar amount than it costs to run. Now, I don't know if you guys have ever run a business, but if you can put $1 in and get $10 out, obviously that's gross revenue, that's top line. but that's a huge, huge return on investment, right? And this is why the stock popped. This is why short sellers got squeezed. And this is why this is, again, a bullish signal for the AI build-out. Again, the latest sentiment the last few weeks and couple of months really has been that there is no ROI. There is no return on investment on the AI spend. So enterprise customers are going to slow down and CapEx spend is going to hit a brick wall. Everything we're seeing is pointing to the exact opposite, right? And really what I think is happening here, guys, is I think we all know this, right? We're truly in the midst of a massive revolution right now. It's going to take more than a couple of years. It's probably going to take a decade, maybe 2 decades to fully pan out, right? But I think a lot of people are they're in disbelief. So they see the growth, they see the spend, they see the CapEx, they see Micron, SK Hynix, these chip companies just rocketing to trillion-dollar companies, and they're taking a breather. The market can't really comprehend what's happening. There's skepticism, but the market can only take good news for so long, right? So we continue seeing this good news. Back to Doximity, AI profitability. Again, the CEO stated that their AI search product, which is in the medical space, generates 10x the revenue of its operating costs. Also, their model, they've actually developed their own AI models, and it's shown to be superior when it comes to medical applications than Anthropic. So the company's Doximity Ask AI model, it's called Doximity Ask, achieved a low 4.8% error rate on a major medical safety test, outperforming major competitors like Anthropic. So they're not just, throwing out some, basic AI feature here. They know what they're doing at Doximity, apparently, right? They've built a model in the medical space that is, at least, by some benchmarks, outperforming Anthropic. So usage spike, not only are they getting a good ROI on spend, but they're also actually getting growth. These features are driving growth, driving business to the company. So Scribe, which is a note-taking feature, and their separate search tool adoption for both of these products multiplied significantly, with active workflow users jumping over 30% from the previous year. They also raised guidance. They lifted its full-year revenue outlook to a range of 671 to 681 million, guys. So we're seeing a lot of companies get ROI on this spend, and it's not that complicated, right? It's not complicated at all. The skepticism itself is going to evaporate, right? And what I think is going to happen, and really quickly here, AMD again kind of peaked right before earnings and then kind of dipped again, but still up 4% for the week. What we're most likely going to see here, and again, this is just my opinion, and I think this is especially the case when it comes to memory chip stocks, specifically Micron, which is, again, at 4P of about 7, which is ridiculous. I think the skepticism really is going to slowly evaporate over a few weeks. You're going to see the stock tick up slowly. Before you know, you're going to look back, you're going to say, oh, wow, Micron's back to all-time highs. And then really quickly, and again, just my opinion, the market's going to all at once accept the fact that the AI build-out is here to stay for at least the last few years. Again, SpaceX spending tens of billions, I believe they said over 100 billion on CapEx in the next couple of years. Software companies already showing a return on AI spend. Everything is pointing, hyperscalers last week, the last 2 weeks, earnings, blew out through the roof, cloud revenues through the roof because companies are spending on AI. The market can only take so much good news, right? And I think eventually we're going to rubber band to the upside, guys. SanDisk for the week up about 4% as well. Again, follow that same trend, guys. All the chip stocks, for the most part, are following that same general trend, right? We had, companies like SK go down, but following that same general trend where they peaked on Tuesday. And another big boy this week was Palantir, up an insane 35%. I mean, guys, and again, this is all due to AI spend, right? The AI products they run on the AI infrastructure, the chips, the racks. And you see a company like Palantir, market cap 400 billion, going up 35% in a week. I mean, it is ridiculous. So we have, companies like Palantir using the infrastructure, seeing massive growth, beating revenue, beating expectations, going up 30%, 35% in a week. This is a $400 billion company. Then we have companies like Micron, kind of treading water down from all-time highs, because of the skepticism, right? People think, what do they think Palantir is going to run on, right? You need the infrastructure. So those are the bullish signals, folks. We got, software companies showing that AI spend is already showing an ROI, and you're going to see more of this in the coming weeks, coming months, coming years. More and more companies saying, hey, this AI is paying off. We're going to keep investing more in AI, which means what? Downstream, hyperscalers are going to keep investing in building out AI infrastructure. We're already behind. We're already, bottlenecked and backed up for the next 18 months or so. And what do you think is going to happen when we keep getting good news? We're going to keep getting more and more behind because these manufacturing plants, especially for the HBMs, those high bandwidth memory chips from Micron and SK Hynix and Samsung, those take, a year or two at least just to build out. And that's just to try and meet the current demand. And what happens if we get there? Now we have more demand, right? We're always behind the curve when it comes to supply and demand, which again is bullish for the stocks themselves. So those are my thoughts, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Just to wrap up, S&P up 3.37% for the week. NASDAQ up a whopping 5%. I mean, these are, huge indices. NASDAQ up 5% for the week. It's insane. Jobs report, relatively was good news overall. It was kind of a mild report. Jobs were relatively flat, slightly down, but really that's because government jobs were cut, but private jobs increased. Unemployment went down slightly. Essentially what this did is it calmed the nerves of the market as far as those fears of a rate hike coming, right? So for the last couple of months, we've been talking about potentially a rate hike. That really now, it's not completely off the table. They're going to see how the next couple of job reports go. They're going to see how inflation goes. They're going to see what's going on with Trump and Iran. But, the report was good enough for the market to kind of take a breather and not really stress about that, right? So that was one of the drivers from the macro level that really led to the indices going up as well. And of course, a tailwind for AI chip stocks as well. Trump continues to try and get himself all out of the mess he created with Iran. Now, although he keeps signaling a deal doesn't happen, the market's become more optimistic because, the market's fully pricing in that Trump, he doesn't want the drama to continue, right? He really doesn't. So eventually, people at least for now are expecting some sort of resolution, whether it be in the next few weeks or the next few months, from day to day, we're not going to get a resolution. But even though those deals keep falling through or taking longer than expected, the market's really not, at least at the moment, too worried about that Iran conflict, right? They're kind of moving on from that to a large extent, unless something negative comes out, right? So that's really it, guys. Those are the macro and the micro reasons as to why we're having massive bullish signals in the market for AI chip stocks. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Again, let me know how you guys did in the market this week. I was up 3.2%. Again, all-time highs 1.2. I was really waiting for that 1.2. Super happy to see that. And if you guys want to see which stocks I'm buying, when I'm buying them, and why, join the private stock groups. $15 a month. We talk stocks. I give you guys, my theses as to why I'm buying stocks. And really, I'm going to be releasing my overall strategy, which I call the method, as to how, zooming out, how I, invest in growth stocks to beat the market and then rotate that into index funds for long-term passive wealth. So eventually I can retire early, right, guys? So that's it for today. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I hope to see you on the next video.